Hello everybody, today's video is about the spiritual realm. Okay, this is my case for the spiritual realm exists. Basically, the way that the world is set up now, it's like everything is about science and the natural world. So science is the study of the natural world. However, science denies the spiritual realm. So this comes with certain problems with different things that we experience. So let's say, for example, if you saw a ghost, okay, science would tell you you're hallucinating, right? If you had sleep paralysis, science would say, oh, well, your brain was awake, but your body was asleep, and that's why you experienced what you experienced. And I just think in general, we need to stop denying the spiritual realm because it exists. And this is my little bit of a case for why it exists. Okay, so here's different things that science does not recognize, but this are real, and we have experienced a lot of these things. Pretty much everyone has experienced a lot of these things in the spiritual world. We've experienced these things. Okay, if anybody has ever seen a ghost, that's an example of the spiritual realm. If you feel like you have a guardian angel, right? Like let's say you were gonna get into a car accident and then you felt somebody tap you on your shoulder or something and you're like, what? And then you look and then you see that you were gonna get into the accident. You felt like somebody was watching over you. Okay, that's an example of the spiritual realm. Children, when children have imaginary friends. This is a very weird concept that children are speaking to people, playing with people that aren't there, their imaginary friend. And we just think, oh, that's just a childhood thing, right? But if we took an adult and the adult said, hey, I'm seeing somebody, I'm hearing voices, and somebody said, no, they're not actually there, right? Like if somebody saw and heard something that wasn't actually there, we would say, they're hallucinating, they have schizophrenia, we would put them on medication, right? We'd think they're crazy. But when this happens to children, when children are experiencing these things, we go, oh no, that's just a childhood thing, they'll grow out of it. How do you grow out of hearing, have we considered maybe that actually is going on, that they are actually hearing stuff, that they're just not just making it up? We seem to think that children are just making this stuff up. Oh, they don't have anyone to play with, so they're going to pretend, it's like talking to a doll. It's like, no. Have we considered children can see into the spiritual world, and that's why they can see, they think they have a monster under their bed. Maybe they do have a monster under their bed. Why is it that just because we can't see it, we think it can't exist? Because we want to make ourselves feel better because we can't see it. No. Another thing, astral projection. Okay. You should not try to astral project. I know that people I don't know if it's just witchcraft or whatever spiritual practices try to astral project. You don't want to do that because you're supposed to stay in your body. Because the thing, if your soul leaves so astral projection is basically you have your soul, your spirit in your body, right? If your soul leaves your body, right? So let's say you're drinking and you're blackout drunk and you can't remember anything that happened, right? And your soul left your body because your body was too inhibited with, alcohol and whatever. And it was hurting your spirit or whatever, right? I think that would be considered astral projection. So people try to astral project. You should not try to astral project. However, there are different times where perchance you have experienced astral projection, but you haven't tried to astral project. So let's say, I personally had one experience like this when I was some teenage year or whatever. I was just walking in my aunt's house. And pretty much what I remember is, for a few seconds of time at least, I saw myself from above myself. I was walking, and then I saw myself, watching myself walk. And then I went to the bathroom, I took a nap, I woke up, and I just went back to normal. I was, I guess, back in my body. But the question is, if I don't have a soul or a spirit or whatever, how did I see? If my soul was not, or my spirit was not above myself, if I wasn't at 2 points at once, my physical body and my spirit, how did I see myself walking? If I wasn't actually there, how do you explain that? How do you say that I was hallucinating? Because it wasn't I was just sitting stationary and I saw this and I saw that. It was I saw myself in two places, basically. So if I don't have a soul or whatever, right? How do you deny that when I experienced that? And I know that's a hard thing to say because it's okay, well, why should you believe me? Maybe I'm just making this up. Okay, whatever. But if anybody else has ever had an experience like that, you saw yourself, or let's say if you had a near-death experience and stuff like that, that's another part of my evidence for that, my case that the spiritual realm exists. Okay, And then, oh, if you ever had like a pet, like a cat, and they were like meowing at something that you couldn't see, like they were agitated and you didn't know what they were getting agitated about, perchance this animal, cat or whatever, saw into the spiritual realm and they saw a ghost or whatever that you couldn't see. Maybe that's why they were getting agitated. Now, I've never had a pet, so it's really hard for me to speak on that, but I've heard, you know, maybe even more than one person say like things like that, like they're not, well, dogs are more in the physical realm, but like cats, like meowing at stuff like that, like as they say, they're running away from something, like they saw something that wasn't there, something like that. That's another example. Okay. And then drugs. Okay, if you took a drug, be it, you know, LSD or, you know, whatever, those hallucinatory drugs, right? And all of a sudden you think the trees are talking to you. It's like, how do you, well, I was going to say, how do you explain that? Okay, science with the natural world would explain that you're hallucinating. Okay, but like, how does that work? Like, why would your brain just make up something that's not there? So, like, have we considered, like, if you're taking a drug and you see the trees are talking to you, maybe they are actually talking to you. You just couldn't hear them before because humans are meant to be in the physical realm. We're not supposed to be, like, yes, we have, like, a spirit or a soul or whatever. We're not supposed to be messing in the spiritual realm. We're not supposed to be seeing stuff like that. We're in the natural world. So we can't see all this different stuff. So have we considered maybe when you're taking the drugs, it changes your, well, we know that it changes like your brain chemistry, you know, whatever is going on in your body, and like your vibrations, your frequency, whatever, and then you're able to see into the spiritual realm. So that's another thing. Like let's say I saw something and everybody was like, no, it's not actually there. Okay, if it's not actually there, then how did I see it? Like, hello? And I know that sounds really crazy because, oh, you're just hallucinating. Okay, but how does that even work? Like, I just find it hard to believe that you could, oh, your mind's playing tricks on you. Okay, but how does that work? Like, have we considered maybe there is actually something going on behind that as to how that works? Like, there's something, like, that's in the spiritual realm that's going on when your mind's playing tricks on you, whatever. Okay. And then sleep paralysis. I already made a video before about 2 different experiences I had with sleep paralysis, but I know a lot of people have experienced sleep paralysis, and I've seen memes about the sleep paralysis demon or whatever. How do you explain that? And I know science will say, okay, sleep paralysis, your brain's awake, but your body is asleep, and that's why you can't move. Okay, but how does that explain you seeing stuff? Like, if you saw a sleep paralysis demon, what, you just hallucinated for no reason? Like, you're not schizophrenic, you don't have any history of mental health, but you see the sleep paralysis demon and you feel it on top of you or whatever, and for some reason, like, that's just normal? Like, that's supposed to be normal to all of us? I don't think so. Okay, so the problem is that science denies the spiritual realm, but when we deny the spiritual realm, it hurts us physically. And okay, even if you just think of, like, even if you think I'm just talking a lot of like woohoo nonsense here, it's like, we acknowledge that, you know, if people have depression or even just like stress and anxiety, stuff like that, it can manifest itself like physically. Like, let's say, like, you know, you're stressed out, you have a lot of stress. Okay, your heart's beating faster, you know, stuff like that. That's also the same thing, like, spiritually. Like, if you are under demonic attack or spiritual thought, well, you know, if there's spiritual warfare going on, okay, if you have like a demon on you or something like that, or something following you, something like that, that can explain certain different like symptoms that you may have with different things. Because if you're physically unwell, right, then we can tell you're physically unwell. Like, if you've broken a bone, everybody's like, okay, yeah, your bone's broken. Now, recently, we've also started talking about mental health. Okay, if you're not in a good mental place, that can affect you physically, right? But if you don't have spiritual health, that can affect you as well. So when we deny this, the spiritual realm, it's like we're also hurting ourselves physically. Because they're different, but they're the same. Like, if my spirit is in my body and then my spirit is unwell, that would hurt my physical body. So I guess inherently to neglect your spiritual health is to neglect your physical health, I guess. And this is another thing that I had to think about. Okay, like, let's say, for example, somebody had synesthesia, right? So let's say, like, when they hear music, they see different colors, stuff like that. Just like some musicians that have come out and said, oh, I see different colors when I play this. Okay. Why is it that nobody says that that's, oh, they're hallucinating, they're seeing stuff that, because they're seeing stuff that's not actually there, right? But nobody calls that hallucination. Nobody says, oh, you're hallucinating, right? They would just say, oh, well, your brain works in a different way. Why don't we also say that for, like, people who maybe hear voices or see different things that we all don't see? Why don't we say, oh, their brain works in a different way? Their brain chemistry works in a different way, that they can see things that generally we cannot see in the spiritual realm. Like, they're more in tune, I guess, with the spiritual realm. And I guess, you know, I don't know if this is more scientifically, but people talk about, oh, opening the third eye and all this stuff. But I feel like it's also very, like, it's a very limited worldview, the way that we view things, because other cultures, I guess, like the people that have, like, that can see different things and whatever, they're not, in other cultures, they're not, like, told, oh, you're crazy, you're hallucinating. Like, it's viewed very differently. And I think that's pretty good evidence that that's just, you know, it's just our worldview. Like, it's not objective, oh, this person has schizophrenia, they're crazy. Like, I think it's more so our personal, at least America, you know, other countries like that, that's just our view of it. Like, if there's specific phenomena that are going on among other different people, like, it's not just us that, or it's not just I don't even know how I want to word this. Like, it's an us thing that we feel a certain way. It's not objectively, you're crazy. It's, we think that these people are crazy. But other cultures, they, you know, it might be more celebrated that you have these abilities, so on and so forth. So that's mostly what I want to talk about today. I guess it came off as very much, this is that. But I really just meant it as more as like a discussion. Like, you know, on my video. So if you want to comment anything and we can talk about anything, or if you have any experiences that you want to talk about or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. So.